The Patriots post-game show. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, WEEI's John Lyons, and my other partner, Kevin Stone. Patriots pick up an impressive 24-23 win over the Atlanta Falcons. And, gentlemen, this game had everything. Patriots get off to a great start. They finally get a stop on an opening drive, an opponent's opening drive. They finally get them off the field. They come out on offense, humming early on, build a 21-7 lead. Then Drake May decides to fumble the football. Atlanta capitalizes on it, scores. It's a 21-14 game at the half. Second half was a slog. But as I mentioned, John, this game had everything. What were your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's Halloween weekend, John, and the Patriots played the most Jekyll and Hyde team in the league in the Atlanta Falcons, and they played the most Jekyll and Hyde game of their season, where they get up 21-7. They look really good throughout pretty much the entirety of the first half until the very end there. And then the fumble that May had really turned this game. Like, this was a game that was on its way to being a Patriots blowout. Next thing you know, it's 21-14, then it's 24, then it's 24-20, then 24-23, ends in a close game. So in a way, it was kind of a weird game, but Kevin, it was a game that I think is valuable for the Patriots in that you're not always going to get an MVP performance from Drake May. You're not going to always get huge games from Kayshon Boutte, who left early and injured today. They didn't play their best. They made some mistakes. They lost Kayshon Boutte to injury. They lost Christian Gonzalez at one point to an injury. Yet they were still able to hang on and win. I think, again, this is a game that last year or the year before or even back in 2022, I think they would have lost.
I said that to John walking down on the elevator today. That's a game last year you lose. That's a game 2 years ago that you lose. Now, granted, you got bailed out. Parker Romo, old friend, helped you out. The intentional grounding was idiotic, but it also was a result of pressure, too. So, good teams find a way to win. You won at home, which is most important. How many weeks now have we talked about winning at home being key for them? That's now 2 straight, and I think they're 3-2. That's not right. Whatever they are at home. This year, they're finding ways to finally make this a hard place to play. This place was loud on third down. Again, today, fans are into it. It was a late arriving crowd, but again, you're now in November. And it doesn't matter how it looks. At the end of the season, when the standings are all sorted out, they're not going to ask you how you won your games. It's how many did you win. They're now a 7-win team, regardless of how it looked. And I think the best part is, and Drake May touched on this post-game, is they all know they can be better. They all want to be better. They're ready to get back to work tomorrow. This is not a team that's just sort of coasting by and accepting the fact that they're getting lucky here and there. So, yes, you can be better. I think Drake was due for one of these kind of games. It had been a while since he played that poorly. And again, he still won the game. So as ugly as it was sometimes, you're 7-2, you're in a virtual tie for the top seed in the AFC. And it's hard to really complain when you're coming out on the right side of these things. If you had lost this game today, yeah, we'd be ripping them apart right now. But again, you're winning games that you weren't winning a year ago, and that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, and look, I think winning games like this is important. And I asked Vrabel about that after the game. I asked him how winning a game like this could benefit this football team down the road. And he said, well, we've won games like this year, but I don't think they have, John. I don't think you've won a game like this year where you can make the argument that the end of the game was a little bit in doubt there. I mean, he misses that extra point. If he hits that extra point, potentially this game goes into overtime, potentially you lose. So while, yes, I understand where he's coming from in saying that, no, we've won some of these games this year. The fact of the matter is you haven't won a game like this. And I think wins like this, and you know this, wins like this do have a carryover effect where if you get into a situation like this again down the road, I think you know how to respond to a situation like this and hang on and win. And that was my point in asking him that question, because I felt that this game could have gone either way at the end. They kind of let the game get away from them in the second half. As I wrote in my 7 points earlier, the second half was a slog. They didn't play well in the second half. I mean, they only scored 3 points in the second half. So it was a tale of two halves in many ways. But I do think that a game like this and a win like this, winning it the way you did against a team that, while they're widely inconsistent, is still a good football team, I think a win like this could pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, I would agree. And like you look at their wins this year, like they blow out a Cleveland team that has a very good defense, but a bad offense. They blow out a Titans team that's the worst in the league. They kind of skate by against the Saints team, but that could have been a blowout. There was some questionable calls there. They were clearly the better team to me. I put this win kind of closer to that Buffalo win and the Dolphins win in week 2, especially. Like that Dolphins game, they didn't play their best football. May played really well in that Dolphins game. But as a whole, right, they gave up that punt return touchdown. The defense had that second quarter where the Dolphins went right up and down the field on them. The offense went quiet for a little bit. So they didn't play their best game, but they found a way to win in Miami. Today was very similar to that. And I would say the Falcons, to your point, John, are a much better team than the Dolphins. Like there's real playmakers there. There's real talent there.
Even though the Dolphins blew them out last week, which speaks to the crazy nature of this league.
And that's the point too. Like I think the Falcons are a better team than Miami, but they're so inconsistent that they lost to Miami last week. So I think to win a game like this, again, are we going to look at this and say, hey, this is how you want it done? This is the blueprint? No, but if you're going to be a good team, you're going to have to win some games that you don't play your best or you make mistakes and you just kind of find a way. And that's what they did today. So that to me, although in the grand scheme of things, this win isn't the model, I think it is a positive for their, what we've been talking about all year, that kind of overall development of this program.
And John Ryan, just to that point, it wasn't the model, but you held the best running back in the NFL, arguably to 46 yards. They held Atlanta to less than 300 yards of offense. So in a way, it sort of was defensively, what they want to do. But yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. But again, I keep going back to, they don't ask how, just how many.
Yeah, and it wasn't the cleanest performance, but those numbers are pretty impressive defensively, especially when you consider that Drake London had 9 catches for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Patriots had nobody that can cover him, and that includes Christian Gonzalez, and that is a scary thought, but I watched Gonzalez on several occasions during the course of the game. He struggled with him. He struggled with him from his release on. He struggled to match up with him physically. As you know, Drake London has sick athleticism and a wide catch radius. It showed today. So both Christian Gonzalez and Marcus Jones and Carlton Davis, who gave up the 3rd touchdown, all 3 of them struggled with Drake London. But by and large, the guy you needed to stop, you stopped. Bijan Robinson only had 46 yards rushing. He wasn't really a factor in this game. He had a couple of chunk runs, but he didn't hurt you. You stopped him, but Drake London went off. Question now is, John, are you concerned about the performance of this secondary based on what you saw today from Drake London? And I'll take it a step further. How concerned are you with their red zone defense? Because coming in today was the worst in the league, and it showed up again today.
And what was frustrating about their red zone defense today is that they kept getting Drake London matched up against Marcus Jones. And look, it happens one time. I get it. It happens. But Atlanta kept finding a way for that matchup to happen in the red zone, and the Patriots couldn't get away from it. Like that was a frustrating thing to see. And I think, look, on the whole, the defense gave up 23 points, but 7 of those points were on a drive that started 1st and goal at the 6 after the May fumble. So I think the defense on the whole played pretty well today. It wasn't elite, but I think they played pretty well today. Look, the Drake London thing is interesting, and I think it's something to monitor because you look at kind of going forward what they have. I mean, Tampa Bay with Emeka Egbuka next week, that's a terrific receiver. Even though he's a rookie, he's a terrific receiver. You're going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins later on. You're going to have Jalen Waddle again, who did have a big game against them in week 2 already later on this season. So, and we'll see kind of what the Ravens passing game looks like. They look really impressive on Thursday night. So we'll see if that continues by the time the Patriots face them. And of course, Buffalo, maybe they don't have that standout guy, but it still is the Buffalo offense. So you just something to monitor, with those number 1 receivers, especially when it comes to the Tampa Bay matchup, the Cincinnati matchup. And I would throw in Baltimore and Zay Flowers as well, again, depending on if Lamar Jackson stays healthy for the next month.
Lauren Gaudette joins the show. She says, I agree with John, but this was more about Atlanta. And this was more Atlanta lost it over Patriots winning the game. But I'm not sure if this was a playoff team that the Pats would win this, but this is still an important win to have. I don't agree with that. And thanks for checking in, Lauren. But I don't think that this was more about Atlanta losing the game than the Patriots winning it. If anything, I think this is more about the Patriots almost losing this game than anything else. I don't think it's anything that Atlanta really did. I mean, you turned the ball over twice. That led to 10 points for the Falcons. So I think it's more about what the Patriots didn't do in the second half to put this thing away and win it than it is really what Atlanta did. I think the Patriots put the thing on a silver platter and almost gave it away.
Well, just take a look at that first drive coming out of the half. I think it was an 8.5-minute drive where you ultimately could have put the game away right there. You go up, I think it would have been 14. That game's probably over then. So to your point, you could have put the game away several times. Just real quick, I want to ask both of you, just from the coaching point of view on the Marcus Jones thing against Drake London. At one point, I think after that fumble, when it was first and goal, Christian Gonzalez was over there. Why, just defensive adjustment wise, why can't you maneuver that to have Gonzalez on him? Is that just schematics, or because I feel like you kind of left Marcus Jones on an island today a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think Atlanta did a really good job. Zach Robinson did a great job of getting Drake London on Marcus Jones. And the way he did it, the two times that London scored on Jones, the first time he zinned him into a stack alignment, he got a free release, and Jones ended up matching up with him based on the Patriots alignment out there, the 2-on-2 alignment. And then on the second touchdown where he ran the wheel out a bunch, he ended up on Jones because Jones was the outside corner. So I thought the Falcons did a really nice job of using their formations, using stack formations and stack or bunch alignments to free up London so that they can get the one-on-one matchup against the smaller corner that they were looking for.
Yeah, like first and foremost, Kevin, I give credit to the Falcons. I thought they schemed up a couple really nice plays down there, especially like John said with the stack alignments, the motions. I would say, okay, it happens to you once on that first touchdown. Can you find a way for it not to, whether it's just you assign Gonzalez to London, and if he gets picked, he gets picked, or have some sort of extra safety help? I mean, it's easier said than done, but I just think it's something for them to look at because, I mean, a few weeks from now, if I'm the Bengals coaches and I'm getting ready for that game, what am I going to try to do with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Like, find a way to get them on Marcus Jones in the red zone. It's just teams are going to copy that until the Patriots find a way to stop it. Same thing just next week with Meka Egbuka in the red zone against Marcus Jones. And Marcus Jones is a really good cover corner and he's battling, but you want Gonzalez on Egbuka in the red zone, right? Like that's what you want. That's what you're going to want next week. So, I mean, again, I give Atlanta most of the credit, but I think the Patriots, they got to figure out a way to kind of avoid that, or teams are going to target it going forward.
So just to follow up for both of you, does it change how they approach the trade deadline on Tuesday now, after seeing that?
Not in my eyes. I wouldn't.
So.
I don't think the secondary is a priority for them.
Yeah.
I think what they need is a third defensive end edge guy. They need a guy to add to that rotation. Now that they've traded Keon White, they don't have that guy. And Elijah Ponder's not there yet. He's not ready to be that guy. So you don't have that third guy that can complement Landry and Chase on right now. I think that should be their priority over the secondary.
And I would add, like, just speaking of Chase on today, like on the whole, right, he had a sack, he had a couple tackles for loss, a QB hit, but it felt like he played really, really well in the first half, and then he kind of faded in the second. You didn't really hear his name as much in the second half. And I'm not saying he was playing poorly, but maybe if you do have a third guy in that rotation, he's a little bit fresher and you get more of an impact. Like, for example, a defensive tackle with Barmore and Milton Williams and Tonga and the guys they've been rotating there. You saw in those late drives in the second half, Christian Barmore looked fresh and he was having an impact, and Milton Williams looked fresh and he was having an impact. I think they don't quite have that depth right now at defensive end, and they used Anthony Jennings a little bit in some of those late game situations. Maybe they'll do more of that, but I'm kind of with John. I think it's more on defense, at least a defensive end need, as opposed to anything in the secondary. Obviously, look, if something drastically changes with Christian Gonzalez's injury, then maybe that'll change my thinking. But for now, I'm with John on that.
And Gonzalez said me with the media after the game. He said he would have been able to come back in if they needed him, if the offense didn't convert that 3rd and 5 to put the game away. He did say that he could have come back in the game. So based on what he told us after the game, it appears that he cleared concussion protocol and he could have come back in if they needed him. Lauren checks back in. The Pats' offensive stats look really deceiving, but the O-line looked like they struggled today. Atlanta rushing 4 or 5 and created some issues, even with Henderson staying to block. The Patriots' offensive line, and this kind of flew under the radar because of how close this game was, Patriots' offensive line gave up 6 sacks today. They did not play well. And coming into the game, Atlanta had the highest pressure rate in the league in terms of blitzing. They blitzed on 48.1% of defensive snaps coming into today's game. So you knew going into this week that you were playing a defense under first-year defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich that was going to come after you. They scheme a lot of pressure, and they bring a lot of pressure. They have one of the best secondaries in the league statistically. They were playing like it coming into today. I thought the Patriots had a lot of success against them. We can get into that. But the offensive line struggled today. They did not play well in pass pro. Like I said, you wouldn't think that Drake May got sacked 6 times based on what we saw on the surface. But when you go back and you peel the layers back, not a good day at the office for the front 5 on offense.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really inconsistent day because, and the Patriots running backs too, by the way, 3.3 yards per carry in the run game, and that includes 8
They
scrambles
missed
from
Stevenson today. They did have 110 yards rushing collectively, but they missed him.
Yeah, I would agree. And it was funny because there was some plays, like there was that 3rd and 12 on the Patriots' second to last drive where May stepped up and made a great throw to convert it to Diggs. And he had great protection and plenty of time from the O-line. There was a couple really good inside runs that I thought Henderson and Jennings had. But then there was a lot of other plays where May was under pressure pretty quickly, or the run was bottled up at the line. Like it was just kind of all over the place. Like they would have 3, 4, 5 plays where they had really good protection. I would add like that first touchdown drive where they eventually threw the touchdown pass to Mario Douglas. I thought the offensive line looked great, on the whole, considering that, again, this is a team that blitzes all the time. But then there were other drives where they just looked overmatched, really. And as good as James Pierce and Jalen Walker are, it is 2 rookie edge rushers that did a lot of damage in this. And again, they're very talented guys, but I would like to see 2 rookie edge rushers not doing as much damage as those guys today. And one last point, I mean, the Dolphins' best defensive player, Diablo, got hurt he wasn't in the game, and he was hurt, and they still did this amount of damage. So, yeah, I thought it was a really inconsistent day from the offensive line.
You bring up a good point about Divine Diablo. He's on IR, but he got hurt in that San Francisco game a couple weeks ago. But up until that point, he was their best defensive player, and he was a nice chess piece for Ulbrich because he can play him on the ball, off the ball. Remember, he was a safety in college at Virginia Tech, comes into the NFL, becomes one of these big nickel outside linebackers, but he became a really versatile piece for the Falcons, and losing him hurt them. But they also drafted Jalen Walker, who can play on the ball, off the ball. He had a sack today. He's a guy that can get after it. So they have a lot of pieces that are Swiss Army knife type guys that can impact the game. They certainly impacted the game today. The offensive line has struggled the last couple of weeks, and I don't think we've talked about it enough. I do think it needs to be more of a talking point. They got to pick it up if this team's going to continue to play at the level they're playing right now. Everybody's talking about the close win today, the 6 in a row, all that other stuff. Everybody's been glazing Drake May now for weeks, but the offensive line needs to be better.
So to that point, I wonder if it's an age thing, catching up with Bradbury and Moses. And then on the flip side, you have 2 rookies still as well. So I think that's sort of a combination of stuff. And Mike Vrabel has talked about needing to manage guys like Moses and guys like Bradbury. I wonder if that's going to start to come into play even more coming down the stretch here. Still have 8 games left. And then just on the offensive line as a whole, I thought Drake May was more decisive running the ball today, but man, he's still taking some brutal hits. He's got to get down better.
Yeah.
And
I mean, at one point in the game, I was yelling, slide, slide, slide on that run in the first quarter where he took off in the middle of the field. But to Kevin's point, John, he's got to do a better job of protecting himself, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also add, too, their highest paid offensive lineman, Mike Onwenu, was not good today, and I thought he was kind of inconsistent last week. Wasn't that good in the Saints game. And I think, look, Kevin, you bring up the point about the age with Moses, with Bradbury, and I'm not discounting it, but I just think you look at the last 3 weeks. Tennessee has Jeffrey Simmons, and that's a really good defensive front. And notice things got a little better when Simmons got hurt and went out. Cleveland, I mean, Myles Garrett's a future Hall of Famer, but as we talked about last week, that's a really good front all over the place. And Atlanta, I know it's 2 rookies that I just complained about being rookies, but they are really talented guys. It is a pretty good front. So you wonder, was the stuff they were doing against, say, New Orleans and that Tennessee game after Simmons left, was that a little bit above their ceiling? And now that they're playing fronts that are pretty good, and they will continue to do so against Vita Vea and Tampa Bay. And of course, later on I'm not really worried about the Bengals front because I think they'll trade Trey Hendrickson by the time you play against them, but they're going to play some other good fronts, put the Giants in there as well. They're going to have to step up and play a little bit better against some of these better fronts that they're going to face.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And again, I think it's kind of flown under the radar the last couple of weeks because they continue to win. And
it hasn't ruined a game yet, so it's flown under the radar.
It could have today, though. It could have today.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, I think it's easy on the surface to look at it and say Drake May's got to hold on to the ball on that fumble right before the end of the first half. The bad interception to Bates where he and Hunter Henry were on the same page. Sure, those things do fall on Drake May, but I do think at the end of the day, he got a lot of pressure today. There was a lot of pressure in his face. He had to vacate the pocket several times. He was on the run. And again, this is a defense that likes to blitz. They bring exotic pressures. They do a lot of TE stunts up front. They give you a workout. And Kevin brought up a good point. I think part of the problem that we're seeing with the offensive line, and you hope it doesn't become a problem moving forward, is that on the right side, you're older. You're older at center with Bradbury, on Wenu to a certain degree, and of course, Moses was in his mid-30s, but then on the left side, you have 2 rookies. And so Doug Marrone, Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, they got to figure out a way to balance that out because, again, you're going to see these kinds of fronts that are going to do what Atlanta does, where they're going to give you multiple fronts. They're going to mug backers. They're going to run TE stunts. They're going to give you some pressure and then some sim pressure. They're going to be all over the place, and you've got to be prepared, and you've got to have a plan, a pass protection plan on how to deal with it. They've got to be better. Real quick, I do want to talk about Drake May's day, 19 of 29, 259 yards, 2 touchdown passes, an interception, passer rating of 102.5. John, how would you assess his day?
I think it was inconsistent. Yeah, you look at like that throw to Douglas early for the touchdown. I thought was terrific. I mentioned the 3rd and 12 throw to Diggs. I thought that was great. He had another first down throw to Hunter Henry where coverage was draped all over and he still made the throw. There was that 3rd and long throw to Douglas right at the sticks, which I thought was terrific. But then the ball security was not good. I thought, again, there was pressure right away and the O-line deserves blame, but that was a bad fumble that he lost. Then he lost the ball
That's
again
all
later
on
on.
him. That is all on him. That's quarterback ball security one-on-one, and he failed.
And then he lost the ball again in the 3rd quarter and just fell on it himself. And then the interception was a bad interception, which not only were him and Henry not on the same page, but even if they had been, that was a high throw. So I thought it was an inconsistent day from Drake May overall. And I think we also have to be cognizant of the fact, and you and I, John, we talked about that, and Kevin, we talked about this for 2, 3, 4 weeks now. This is still a very young team, and it's still a guy who's a first-year head coach here. Now, I know he's been a head coach before, but his first year with these guys, they're going to have random performances that aren't good enough, and today could even be one that they lost, but they're going to have a handful of performances like these. The key question is, as they build this, can they bounce back from it, right? Like they had that really bad performance against Pittsburgh, and they bounced back from it. And they played really well after that. Today, they really didn't play that well on offense, especially in the second half. Can they bounce back on the road in Tampa Bay and play better, and follow it up with a good outing against the Jets on a Thursday night game coming up? So again, they're a young team. It's a new coaching staff for these guys. They're going to have some of these performances. May's going to have some of these too as a second-year quarterback. Can they bounce back from them and improve?
I was going to say, I said it earlier, he was due for one of these. He's still a young kid. Like you said, John, you can make the argument that he's not a rookie, but it's his first year in this offense with this offensive line, with this coaching staff. He's still learning on the fly too. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me that he had one of these. The fumbles do. I feel like that's just something, even at a young age, you learn, take care of the freaking ball. So that's a little alarming, but in general, this feels like a team that bounces back pretty well. Again, to your point, Mike Vrabel is not going to let this stuff linger. They'll work on the ball security still. I'm sure Drake May will have, those big oven mitts, or coaches with the big oven mitts or the pads, hacking away at him all week, and they'll work on it. But I'm really just not surprised that it happened because he is still so young and still learning on the fly. It's the ball security that still worries me a little bit. But I don't want to say I'm encouraged that it happened now and not in December. You know what I mean? But I'm really not too worried about this lingering. I do think he's the type of kid who will bounce back and continue to get better.
Lauren Gaudette checks back in. Think the blitzing and stunting the playbook to beat the Patriots. So she's saying, do we think that blitzing and stunting is a way to beat the Patriots with how the O-line played? May was really jittery at times today, and I feel his inexperience came out today. Yeah, I mean, look,
I think it is. Yeah, I think, and look,
I
they've
think
gotten
it is
better
based on the offensive line.
And look, they've gotten better, right? You go back to that Washington preseason game where they gave one up right away and it was a fumble, and they've gotten better since then. But we've seen there have been moments, even last week, one of Myles Garrett's sacks where they picked up the stunt and he just overpowered Jared Wilson. So it's I think if you're a defensive coach, I think you look at the Patriots and you say, get two safeties back so you don't give up the big play, run some stunts up front, and make sure your defensive ends or whoever's on the stunt, set the edge so you don't let Henderson or May get to the outside. Like that, to me, right now, that's kind of the baseline recipe if you want to stop the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think, look, you're going to see more and more pressure regardless. You have to make your adjustments to not only protect your quarterback, but to be able to run the football as well. That's the other part of this. When we think of teams that are going to blitz you and play up the field, we always think they're going to blitz to stop the pass, but they run blitz as well. And so I think they do need to get this offensive line on the same page. You can't give up 6 sacks. Again, it flew under the radar today because they won, but if they lose this game, we would be harping on that. It would be a major talking point, and we'd be talking about how they've regressed and they're not playing well of late. And is it a concern again? Are we back to where we were the last couple of years? We're not doing that yet. But that's part of the reason I brought it up, because I do think we are trending in that direction if they don't start turning it around and playing better up front. They need to. They need to. And by the way, I do want to commend Will Campbell on making one hell of a play there on the fumble where he tracked down.
Great effort.
Great effort. He tracked down the guy that recovered, and he was able to make a touchdown-saving tackle. That's something that you're going to, when you're watching the film tomorrow, it's something that's going to come up, and he's going to get commended for that. He didn't stick around really to talk with the media today. I mean, he did talk to Matt Fatura from Mass Live. I think as soon as he saw me nearby, he's like, screw that guy, I'm out of here. He asked me about the 5 sacks last week. but look, like I said, it's going to be something that they need to address. Speaking of addressing needs, the trade deadline is on Tuesday. John, how active do you think the Patriots are going to be?
So I think they'll be active in discussions. I don't know if they'll make many. I think you might see a couple ancillary moves. Like, we'll see. How long is Ramondre Stevenson going to come out? And we didn't mention this, and I think we should have. They missed his pass blocking today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's really good for all his fumbling issues and whatever. He is
all the people who wanted to run him out of town at the beginning of the season, you see how important he is today.
At least as a pass, yeah, and he's obviously been running better the last couple of weeks, but as a pass blocker, he is really valuable. So if he's going to be out a while and you can bring in a back, because again, Henderson's a rookie, Jennings is a young player, like you don't want those to be the only 2 guys you have out there, especially if it's a key situation, pass blocking. Even though Henderson is a good college pass blocker, he's gotten better, you still want to vet there. I mean, the Kayshon Boutte injury, too, if that's anything long-term, maybe you want to try to bolster the receiver room. But I really think it comes down to running back and defensive end. And that's really what they got to look for. I think they're going to definitely be active in discussions, but I think their actual moves will be a depth defensive end, which essentially will replace Keon White on the depth chart. And depending on Stevenson's injury, a pass-blocking running back.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, I wouldn't mind another defensive back, but they don't grow on trees. So I'm not sure you can go find one at the deadline. I'm not sure what team is willing to give up DBs in a passing league. So, defensive end, running back. Receiver is interesting. The Boutte thing, that worries me because he's that chemistry with Drake May is real, and you can't really replace that. So that's a little worrisome. But I don't expect them. The major deal we all remember the trade deadline for them was a keep to leap. At least that's the first one I think of. I don't think you're going to have anything like that in terms of a name, but I do think you'll see at least one or two additions on Tuesday. I do want to ask you guys, and again, very much like DBs, offensive linemen don't grow on trees, but is that something they might be able to go get, or probably not?
No, I don't think
Yeah,
so.
I would love
I'd
it,
be
Kevin.
surprised.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't give those guys away, especially in a year where more than half the league is in playoff contention. Teams aren't going to give those guys away. They're just not. Teams are having a hard time finding guys that can play at this level to stash on their practice squad. You're not going to – I don't see – unless it's a team that has a guy on a really bad contract and they're looking to offload it. And if they are, I don't think he ends up here simply because I don't think the Patriots are receptive to taking on those types of contracts. So, no, I'd be surprised if they swung a trade for an impact offensive line. And potentially they could swing a trade for a backup or somebody who could be a 6th or 7th guy. But I don't see an impact guy that could potentially step in and play for them.
Yeah, so I'm also meant depth. But no, again, it makes sense. They don't grow on trees. I get it. It's a passing league. So, but again, if the age does worry me with Bradbury and Moses. So if you could find that depth piece as well, it'd be nice for sure.
Well, you're not going to find a guy that's better than him, though. That's
what are you going to find a guy that's better than Marcus Bryant? Because really, that's your swing tackle. Right. That's your depth piece.
And I don't think that's a need right now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough.
This offseason, Kevin, I would agree with you. This offseason, I would say draft another tackle in the first 3 rounds, bolster the interior of the O-line, make some real moves there. I just don't, to John's point, I just don't see those guys available. Unless there's someone we're missing, I just don't see those guys available right now.
No, and how much of a need is it really? I mean, Marcus Bryant hasn't had to play for them. One of the things, knock on wood, that you could say is they've been able to stay healthy up front. So you hope that continues because that's when it becomes an issue. And yes, I know that they've struggled at times, especially the last couple of weeks, but it's not really a need or enough of a need that you're going to give up future draft compensation to address it. Again, if the right guy becomes available, sure, you might be able to. But I would say that if they make any additions, like I said, I think it'll be at edge. I think possibly in the secondary. You never know. Maybe running back. But even then, what are you giving up? That's going to be the other piece, right? Yeah. Because who's available and what are you giving up? I mean, if you trade for a guy like Jerome Ford from the Browns, you're probably giving up a late day 3 pick. If you want to be in on Alvin Kamara, it's going to cost you a better pick than that. So I don't think they're going to be willing to go there. No, I still think Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf value those draft picks. And I think they're going to want to keep as many of them as they can. And while they're good and they're in prime position here to make a run, unless it's a guy that they really believe is worth bringing in. And by the way, a guy that has some term left on his contract, they don't want rentals. They can bring in a guy with 2 or 3 years left on their contract at a reasonable price. I think they'd be willing to do it. But again, I think that's hard to find.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I think a lot of the moves you'll see at the deadline are those ancillary. You're not going to see them trade for Christian McCaffrey like the 49ers did a couple of years ago and throw out all those picks. I just think it's going to be more ancillary type depth moves.
One other name. What about A.J. Dillon?
What about A.J. Dillon?
Would you take him? If it's cheap, obviously.
I mean, I think he fits what they do. I mean, but what's Philadelphia's incentive to trade him? I mean, you're going to need to keep Saquon Barkley fresh for the rest of the season. What's Philadelphia's motivation to trade a guy that they could use, especially down the stretch, to absorb some carries so they don't have to use Saquon Barkley as much? I mean, he could be available, and I do think he'd be a fit, but I don't see that happening. Obviously, he's got local ties. Connecticut kid, played at Lawrence Academy, but outside of that lens, I don't see how they trade for him and bring him here.
Yeah, I kind of with you. I mean, I don't see the Eagles wanting to do that.
No, I agree. And I don't look. And the NFL trade deadline's a little different than the other sports. It's usually not as active, usually not as busy. But like I said, with as many teams as there are right now in playoff contention, you could see that one or two big moves. Certainly, if you're in the bottom third of the league going into Tuesday, this is a real opportunity to capitalize and acquire future assets. So if you are one of those teams that's at the bottom, this would be a good opportunity to potentially add to your draft pick, to your war chest of draft picks. Adam J. Glaze, 5419, chimes in, told you this morning, God day for a W. I know what you meant there, buddy. You meant good day for a win. Yeah, you did. Said it to me and John Sapichetti, good day for a W, and they got it done. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
So next Sunday, I think is going to be one of, if not their toughest games of the entire season. On the road in Tampa Bay, Mayfield is an MVP candidate. That's a really, really good team. Emeka Egbuka is as good as any receiver that they've played against so far. That's a good defensive front in Tampa as well. It's a well-coached defense on top of that. That it's going to be their biggest test since they went to Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. And you can make the case, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, I mean, they're right in that same class. This might end up being the best team they've played all year. Can Mike Vrabel and this staff take some of the mistakes the Patriots made today, get them corrected by next Sunday? Can they go down there and have a really good show? Because look, obviously you want to win the game, but if you go down there, even if they lose a close game and you're 7-3 with a close loss to Tampa Bay and you come back and beat the Jets the following Thursday night to go to 8-3, you're still going to feel really good about yourself in the grand scheme of things through 11 games. But can they correct some of the mistakes from today? And can they go toe-to-toe with a great team and be in it at the end and win? They did it once against Buffalo earlier this year. They haven't played any great teams outside of that. Can they do it on the road in Tampa Bay? I'm excited to see it.
I'm going to go back to what I said last week. You're now 7-2. Indianapolis lost today. Technically speaking, I'm ignoring the tiebreakers for now. You're only one seed in the AFC. You're in a tie right now, and there's still 8 weeks to go. But if you're a fan of this team, given how bad it's been the last 5 years, do not be afraid to start thinking ahead to what could be. Like, you could be hosting one, if not more, playoff games. Hell, you might be a one seed at some point. And again, I know there's 8 weeks left. There's a long way to go. They did not look good today. But given the landscape of the AFC and the NFL in general, and again, we'll see how Tuesday shakes out as well, this team can make some real noise in the postseason this year. I'm not sure anybody would have said that 3 or 4 months ago. So again, if you're a fan, don't be afraid to start thinking big. It is very possible. Yes, there's still 2 months left, but again, the AFC is wide ass open.
Last 5 years. That amazes me. That amazes me because Patriot fans want to act like they're long suffering. Right. In 2020, they went 7-9 and were in playoff contention going into week 14. In 2021, they made the playoffs. In 2022, if they had beaten Buffalo the last regular season game of the year, they would have made the playoffs. It's been 2 years of them sucking. And yet Patriots fans act like, oh, it's been so long. 2 years. I mean, go talk to Jaguar fans. Go talk to fans of other teams. Those are long-suffering fan bases. My final thought is Drake May, and I guess this is going to turn into a question for the both of you. Is the gloss going to start wearing off the baseball card here nationally? Because nationally, they've been jockeying him now for weeks, but he didn't hit the 130 threshold for passer rating today. He was only 102.5. He turned the ball over twice, second week with a turnover. Does the gloss start to wear off the baseball card here, fellas? What Drake May? Are people going to start jumping off the wagon?
I don't know yet, but I think if he has another tough game or
let me not to cut you off, John, at least nationally anyway.
Yeah, I think it would take maybe one more inconsistent performance against Tampa Bay. Like if he goes toe to toe with Baker and Baker's way better than him, then I think you might start to see it. So, I mean, also too, let's be fair to Drake May. Some of those deep ball numbers he had over the last month were unsustainable. Like whether or not Kayshon Boutte gets hurt today, like he was completing almost every deep ball he threw, and he was one of the best guys, quote unquote, in history at throwing the deep ball through that month. Like that's not gonna continue. Like there's gonna be some ups and downs there. But I think, look, he's proven he's the franchise quarterback. I don't think he's at an MVP level yet, and I think he might drop out of that conversation. But I don't think that changes the assessment of he's a franchise quarterback and a really great player moving forward.
It's interesting. I think nationally it's bound to die down, but I actually think locally it might wear off. Because these fans, as you know, they can be fickle. A day like today might say, might make people say, "Oh, well, wait a minute." So I actually think locally, I think that velocity that you talk about, John, will wear off before it will nationally. The thing I'm worried about is defense is now putting him on a pedestal, saying we have to take this kid down a peg. Now, again, you're an NFL defensive player. You're going to play your ass off no matter what quarterback you're playing. But I do think there's a sense of this kid's only in year two. People are talking him up like he's, the greatest thing since sliced bread. Let's take him down a peg. I do worry that he might start taking more shots when he runs and stuff like that. But in terms of the original question, I actually think locally fans might start to back off before they do nationally.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to take shots. That's not this league anymore. Defensive players aren't stupid enough to go after him because they know that it's going to be a 15-yarder and a fine and a potential ejection. Those days are over. I get what you're saying, but I don't think they'll go after him like that. But to your point, I'm sure they've been motivated and they will be motivated to play against him. By the way, you know who had a higher passer rating today than Drake May? Mac Jones, 135.2. 19 of 24 for the 49ers, 235 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Who is this guy? Mac
He's
Jones.
The new Sam
Pretty
Darnold.
soon, if Drake continues to be inconsistent again, well, he hasn't been inconsistent. We're being stupid and dramatic about it. But if he does take a turn here and Mac continues to play at a high level, by the way, kind of get the sense Brock Purdy's getting screwed in San Francisco. Just thought I'd put that out there. Yeah, maybe you'll get those 1 or 2 people that'll say, yeah, we should have hung on to Mac.
Look at Matt Patricia at Ohio State. Best defense in the country.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I kid when I bring up Mac Jones. I mean, whatever. You're obviously going to take Drake May over Mac Jones any day of the week, but speaks to that modern West Coast offense and how quarterback friendly it is. Kyle Shanahan's a good play caller, good play designer, does a good job, unlike Matt LaFleur, who is underachieving with the Packers, and their season just went down the crapper today. I thought I'd throw that in there. So much of them contending for a Super Bowl. Thanks for nothing. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots post-game show. For John Lyons and Kevin Stone, I'm John Sirianidis. Patriots beat the Atlanta Falcons 24-23. They visit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. We will be right back with you after that game. Until then, have a healthy and safe week. Peace.